Hello and welcome to the Wednesday, February 19th, 2025 edition of the SANS Internet Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich and today I'm recording from Jacksonville, Florida. Well, today we got Russ McRee back, our handler after a hiatus, and the first diary really addresses a topic that I've covered a couple times here, and that's, well, malicious machine learning models. When you're downloading a machine learning model from a site like Hugging Face, well, you're typically downloading a pickle file. The problem with pickle files is they are Python code. So as you're instantiating the model, you potentially execute Python code, which could be malicious, which could execute operating system commands and all kinds of evil things that attackers like to do to your system. This could even happen if you're using the torch load command, the PyTorch module. Torch load may also instantiate models unless you specifically only have the weights only parameter set that will only load weights for the model, not to complete any Python code or so that's potentially being added to the model. Now, to help you with this task to figure out if a particular machine learning model that you downloaded is malicious or not, Russ introduces a tool called ModelScan. ModelScan does, well, what you would expect it to do based on the name. It'll scan your machine learning model and tell you if there is any suspect code in this machine learning model. Russ has sort of a quick run through of that ModelScan tool with benign and a malicious model. In the malicious case here, it recognizes that there's some operating system commands that are going to be executed and it will alert you of that. There are different ratings for defining is fine. It includes, of course, there will probably be a little bit of cat and mouse game going on over the next months, years, whatever, between the tool and the attackers trying to sort of look for evasion techniques and to detect evasion techniques, but looks like a very solid tool. Comes with Juniper notebooks and all the good stuff that you kind of need in order to run an experiment with the tool. And we do have two new vulnerabilities in OpenSSH. The vulnerabilities were found by Qualys and were just patched. One of the vulnerabilities, the one that's really more interesting here, allows for an attacker to impersonate a server. The attacker needs to have a machine in the middle position in order to conduct the attack. But of course, that's kind of not the type of attack that you want to protect yourself from via the proper key identification from the server. You're only vulnerable to this attack if you have the verify host key DNS feature enabled. It's usually disabled. However, apparently in FreeBSD, it's sometimes enabled by default. The vulnerability itself is over 10 years old and, well, as a result, pretty much any SSH server client that you would find out there right now is vulnerable. Now, a little bit about that verify host key DNS feature. The idea is that you publish an SSH fingerprint of the key via DNS. This has to be DNSSEC protected, but SSH here does not deal with errors properly. If there is a memory allocation error during the parsing of the record of the key, then the key is accepted and that then leads to no warning being displayed as the user connects to the potentially malicious host. So a couple things you want to do here is, number one, of course, keep SSH updated. This is one of the critical things that you have. I just yesterday talked about how SSH may be the one thing that you enable, like, on your perimeter. And then check if this verify host key DNS feature is enabled. Most networks don't even publish any SSH fingerprint records via DNS. If you don't publish these records, then definitely disable it, because there's nothing really to verify here. The second part to this, of course, is if you do publish those records, again, make sure that you're up to date. Also, double check for odd errors and such that you may see in your logs that would potentially indicate an exploit attempt here. The second vulnerability, as I said, is a denial of service vulnerability. So nothing really all that outrageous here necessarily. Not good, but definitely less important than the impersonation of a server. We've got a couple other smaller issues, vulnerabilities. First of all, Juniper released some patches, not necessarily a small problem, but not a lot of details here. And that's an out-of-cycle bulletin, meaning that is not one of their regular bulletins. They prioritize this bulletin. It affects a wide range of their devices, and it's an authentication bypass. They call it an alternate path or channel vulnerability that the router's exposed to here. And yes, CVSS score in the 9.8 range for this vulnerability. So definitely prioritize updating. And Dell also published a fix for an authentication vulnerability. This one affects the bias of a wide range of systems. However, in order to exploit this, you already have to have authenticated using a more privileged account. So not all that critical, and well, bias updates are always painful, so nothing that you have to do right now. The list of vulnerable systems is long. I would suspect it's pretty much all of Dell's system that may be vulnerable to this. Well, and that's it for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for listening. Thanks for recommending this podcast, and talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.